Satan, Lucifer, Belial, Leviathan, Samael.
Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you're here with me to spend some time. I have a very special guest, a musical guest, and I haven't done this before, so I'm very excited to hear about his music, about his journey, and expose you guys to what I really like about his YouTube channel. So, welcome, Vincent Crowley. Vincent, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this. Um, I ran across your YouTube channel and I really like the music. And I'm always looking for different things to listen to along the way. Um, and I've had a lot of people send me messages, hey, who do you like? Who do you listen to? And so this is certainly something that I think my audience is going to like. So, how long have you been on the left-hand path?
I started getting interest when probably 12, 13. I got brought up in a very Christian household, and it was church 3 times a week. It was kind of pounded in your head, and I never got it. I always felt like there was something wrong. I had great parents, don't get me wrong. They just were overly religious at the time. And that made me kind of question things and try to find things out for myself. And the more I questioned things, the more I wanted to rebel. In the early days, I I would definitely say, unfortunately, my beginning was more towards devil worship because my information was stemming from Christian propaganda that was getting out there and explaining what Satanism was supposed to be. So as doing it as youth, you get into trouble, you're doing all kinds of shit, it's blasphemy and stuff like that. And it was not very studied. It was just kind of doing exactly what they kind of describe what it was about. And the older I got, and then reading the Satanic Bible, I realized, wait a minute, that's not what Satanism is. And I realized I don't even need to act this way. I'm already doing what the Satanic Bible pretty much had said. And that's when I started to go down that path and study that more, and dabble with different ideas in the occult.
Was the Satanic Bible one of your influences, your early influences?
Oh, absolutely. I think the Satanic Bible is the biggest influence in my life, even though LaVey took a lot of things from different people to make that. That's why it worked, because he took the best of the best out there and made it into something uh mankind can resonate to. And, well, certain people, I should say, because it definitely is not for the masses. It's someone that can clearly embrace the self and know that um in this world you are your own god, and you are the responsible for your actions. You're responsible for your success or your failures. And a lot of people don't want that in their life. They want to have some invisible crutch, or they want to blame some, cosmic boogeyman for their problems.
Absolutely. Finding a scapegoat.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that that's what a lot of folks are doing nowadays. Where are you located, Vincent?
I'm located in Columbus, Ohio.
And how's the occult community there?
Honestly, I keep to myself for the most part. I haven't really met many people here, but that's not saying there's not people here. you see some little occult like seminars here and there, but I've never seen anything like very active in this area.
So tell us a little bit about music. How did you get into music?
I had a cousin that was very much into rock back when I was a little kid, and she had some albums that, she kind of found a different path and she didn't want to do that anymore. And I end up getting these things at a young age. And, you know, Alice Cooper's album Killer um, totally just resonated to me, and Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, and, some of that like darker music that had the aesthetics that were they're sinister and horror and stuff like that, and that got me down the path. And I from that day on I just wanted more and more and more, and as years went by I just um got into heavier and more extreme stuff. When I was a teenager, I didn't pick up the guitar till I was 16, but I was like, I had a goal that I was going to do something, and my goal was to have an album out in my early 20s. And I worked with several bands, did some stuff, and then I formed the band Acheron in 1988. And from that point on, in 1992, I fulfilled that goal, and we recorded the Rites of the Black Mass.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, when the one thing, when you had like in the early days, you had bands like I mentioned, Black Sabbath and Ozzy and Iron Maiden, and you know bands used to like to dabble with devil imagery and kind of pseudo satanic topics. And later bands like Venom and Slayer and Bathory and bands like that kind of took it to another level. Many of them still used it as a gimmick, but they was like straight in your face. And then King Diamond came out with Merciful Fate, and that just enlightened everything. It was the most satanic thing I ever heard, and that really just inspired me. And I just wanted to do something that was sincere, true. It wasn't a gimmick. This was actually part of my beliefs and lifestyle. And I became during our demo days, I became in contact with Peter H. Gilmore, who is the present high priest of the Church of Satan. And at that point, he was just working with Anton LaVey. And we were talking about combining his keyboard compositions with the metal we were making. And he did an intro for our first demo. And then we had this plan. We're like, no one has ever done the Satanic Black Mass set to music. And there's been people who have recorded a Black Mass that's going on, like Coven, but no one actually put the actual manuscripts to music. So we set forth to do an authentic thing, and on that album we did just that. We did the Black Mass set to music. Peter did an intro with invocations between every song. The lyrics of every song went in order for the rites. And 1992, that actually came out, and it not a lot of people know it, but that was kind of historic in the satanic world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was cutting edge. So as time went on, the Church of Satan changed. So tell me a little bit about how you adjusted to that and what your thoughts were as those changes happened.
I was introduced to the Church of Satan in the late 80s with Peter. I had heard about it. I never joined or anything like that. And then when I started working with Peter, when the 90s came, uh, I was definitely more involved, and um, Anton LaVey actually made me an official member of the COS. As time progressed, I started to do work with them. Again, the Church of Satan in the beginning was more of a think tank. It wasn't a organized religion at the time, even though many people and members wanted it to be. Uh, there was a lot of, it was kind of like artists and people that were pushing what Satanism was really about in their music, their art, their their work, their life. Those were the people in the Church of Satan, and it wasn't like everybody had to be the same. It was doing your own thing and kind of pushing that agenda. Um, Things through the 90s was great. I met a lot of great people, worked with a lot of great people. That actually, on the early Acheron stuff, we actually had Church of Satan artist, Diabolos Rex Church. He did most of our album covers in the 90s. So it was a great time at that point. And when LaVey passed, one thing I noticed was everybody was trying to grab the reins for who was going to lead it now. And that just made everybody show their ass. And I was not impressed. Now, I hung on for a while. I could see things were changing. The internet definitely started to change things because now everybody and their mother could be on a chat or a board room and just talk their smack and just it just seemed like a little club now. And some things happened in 2000. I really won't get into it. It's just stuff that I didn't agree with. So I resigned from the Church of Satan, and from that day on, I decided my path was on my own. Satanism had always been an individualistic belief system for me, and I think that's what it was meant to be in the first place. And a lot of the groups I was seeing, it started to be exactly what we were against in the beginning. It was Christianity and Islam and Judaism and Buddha. It's all this group mentality thing, and I just don't get that, because once you start doing that, people start acting the same. They lose themselves with trying to catch up with the other person. And you'll see that. I mean, you'll see in a lot of groups, they all dress the same. They all kind of talk the same. They all like the same movies. They all like the same type of music. And it just got ridiculous. So I just went on my own way at that point.
Tell us a little bit about your band. Who is with it, and did how did it all come together?
Well, right now I've had a band uh, that is called the Vincent Crowley, and it started after I put Acheron to rest in late 2018. Um, that was with myself on vocals, Art Taylor on guitar, Eric Stewart on guitar, Tim Wilson on bass, and Ryan Archer on drums. We coming from a black death metal band like Acheron, I didn't want to do the same thing. So what we did is took elements of my vocals on that, but tried to go back to a heavy metal roots that we grew up on, like the Merciful Fates, Candlemass, you know, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, stuff like that, but with a little bit of a modern flair and use of keyboards. And um, that's what we've been doing. And the whole concept for the Vincent Crowley band is horror. So everything we write is some sort of horror story or based on death and stuff like that. Um, but since I've been doing this, there's been a lot of fans of Acheron that have been wanting to see us and said they never got to see us, or are we going to do one more time? And I started listening to some of the old stuff, and it kind of got me nostalgic. So next year, not only are we going to do the Vincent Crowley band, we're also going to do Acheron again. And I'm using the guys in Vincent Crowley, except for the bass player, because I play bass in Acheron too. And we're going to do a bunch of special shows throughout the world. So we're looking forward to that.
So you guys are a touring band, right?
We just do limited special shows. Back in the day, the music business is very fickle. You could go out and you can do really well, come back with, the funds you need to survive, or you could go out and lose everything you have. And, uh, I'm at the point in my life where I am not willing to risk that. So I'll just take the bigger shows we can get. Usually we try to do festivals or something that's bigger, and it keeps it still interesting, fun, and not so consumed on dealing with that on an everyday basis with all the struggles and bullshit you have to do with touring.
What are your feelings on the music business today? We see a lot of horror stories out there. We see a lot of people getting screwed over. We see a lot of festivals that are just a big mess. What is your opinion of the music business?
I utterly despise it. I mean, I've been a part of it for a long time. I signed my first record contract in 91, and I've worked with many different record labels, and there's always, even the best ones are always going to have problems. And it it's a very fucked up thing. I always tell people, if you are getting into music for money, good luck. I mean, there are some bands that can get that, but for the most part, you're going to get screwed over. You're going to get ripped off or on some way. You really have to pick and choose your battles in this business, and that's why I'm at where I'm at. Acheron. I got many people wanting to put another Acheron album out, and I don't want to deal with that bullshit again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find smaller labels that put out limited like vinyls or something, and then you know put some kind of download for the new songs and just do them as they come, how they feel naturally, not trying to rush to do an album or record. The Vincent Crowley band, we're signed to Hammerheart Records, so we'll be doing more albums. That's the band I'll be doing albums with. But again, it's like doing a new band. I did a band for like 30 years in the past, and now I'm doing something that's newer. And you don't get every fan from your past band to come to your new band. It's a different kind of sound. It's might have some similarities, but it's a struggle. But I love making music. That's the one thing that appeals to me. It's, if anything's my savior in this world, that is my my ability to make music, because if it wasn't for that, I would be fucking utterly insane.
I hear you. So there are a lot of people that talk about having to, quote, sell your soul to make it in the music business. What are your thoughts on that? And what advice can you give new groups or maybe new musicians that are watching this?
Well, if selling your soul would get you something, everyone would do it. And everybody that's doing this stuff would be rich and successful, and And that obviously that's a bunch of horse shit. But in a way, you do sell your soul, as in, if you get in this business, you better put everything into it. You better, it's not something you just do on the weekend and stuff. This is like an everyday thing. You might not be rehearsing every day, you might not be writing every day, but you are doing something every day of your life if you have an active band. That is just the reality to it. You know, if you're, at least with me, it's like, because I'm the main person in the band, so I'm doing all the business and stuff like that. Uh, but if you are a part of the band, if you're not on par with all your stuff, you can be easily replaced in a lot of these bands. So it's a cutthroat business, and you have to be dedicated, and you have to have focus, and you definitely better be sure that you want to do it, because it's not the glamorous shit that people think it is. There's, yeah, can there be chaos and mayhem and parties and shit? Yeah, in the past I've seen all that stuff. I've seen the indulgent part of it, but I've also seen the bad fallout from fucking all that shit. So nowadays, uh, I'm very disciplined now. I really don't party. I fucking focus on what I'm doing, and those days are over, and I'm just joining the music. But yeah, if you want to get in this, you better make sure, because once you sell your soul, it's gone.
I heard someone say it's show business, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a hard way to go. Tell us about your writing process.
It depends on the band. My old band Acheron, I always had kind of a concept for songs, and I would try to put myself in that mode. Say if I wanted to convey something uh, more philosophical, or talk about philosophy, or that it'd be more aggressive, or if it was something more dark, occultic, and sinister, I try to make it more mood. And it always, and setting is a big thing too. Lighting, candles, incense, stuff like that. One thing people don't understand: ritual can be used in all sorts of things, no matter what you do. And to me, writing music is a ritual. It's no different than somebody, fanning out fucking satanic invocations and ringing bells and stuff. It's the same kind of process. You're focusing and putting your energy into this item you're doing. Uh, with the Vincent Crowley band, we come up with songs, and as soon as I listen to a song, because I'm just doing vocals and writing, I write some songs musically, but I'm not playing them live. I just sing. But I try to get the feel of the song. Like we actually, our guitarist, our Taylor, wrote a song, and the first thing I thought was I felt something of like a ship and Cthulhu, and we wrote that song, that which lurks beneath the sea. And that happens all the time with our music. The songs will be completed, and I put myself in the zone. I'm like, okay, what kind of feel am I feeling for this? What kind of story do I think this conveys to the audience? And it works very well. And I'm really enjoying doing this right now.
Do you prefer writing by yourself or collaborating with others?
We tend to write by ourselves, but I think on our next album we're going to try to do a little bit more combination. My guitarist Art Taylor and myself do most of the songwritings for the first two albums, and we told the other guys, we'd like to see some input. Maybe we can start meshing in some stuff together, and stuff like that. With Acheron, I pretty much write everything, and um, and I get people to work with. They kind of, it's like me making the foundation, and if they want to layer the cake, it's that's what they do. They put the extras on it. So Acheron is more of a very strategically planned thing I already have for the basic goal, and then everybody else kind of just enhances it.
When you start thinking about an album, do you start with a vision for the album and make that come true? Or I've heard from some groups that albums never turn out the way they think. They take a life of their own. Have you experienced that? Is that true in your case?
What I've always done is I always come up with the album title before anything, because then I know uh, what kind of ingredients to put in it. So if if it's something that has a lot of like, I've done several albums that are concept albums, so I know what needs to be in there. Uh, yeah, I I think once you know that, you have to kind of have a vision of what you want. Yeah, most likely it's going to come out a little different than you originally thought, because you will be in the studio and stuff might happen that you're like, because you work with engineer, and they might say, hey, why don't you try this, or why don't we do this and try this sound, or we hire uh keyboardists to help us out sometimes, and they might come up with something that we're like, oh, we need to kind of pull that up in this section and bring it out. And yeah, once you're in there, it's like a chef just trying to come up with something different. But you pretty much are focused on the same result, of that song title, at least to me, or the album title. So like the next Vincent Crowley album uh, will be called Grim Tales. Now we only have several songs, even not even close to being done, but we now know kind of the feel we want when we go into that.
For someone starting out in the business, do you do you think that it is worth their time and effort to try to get a deal right off the bat? Or do you think it's more about building your following up and then the labels will come to you? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, most likely the labels aren't going to come to you unless you have that, support out there. Now, mind you, I'm in my 50s, so I was around during the old days where it was making your own flyers, writing people physically, sending stuff overseas, and like getting in fanzines that people would make all over the world. And that was an amazing time because it was not easy. You really sorted out the ones who wanted it and those who didn't back in those days, because I can honestly say I still know tons of people that I wrote to back in the day, starting out doing demos, that are now successful in bands, still doing it today. So I think the problem with today is, though, the competition and the there's healthy competition. You don't have to be a prick and like talk shit about another band or something. It's like, you see someone putting out something good, you go, man, I want to fucking top that, or I want to do something different, or that's some fucking healthy competition. Once you're shit talking and stuff, that does nothing for you. That's fucking retarded. So, I nowadays, there's so much accessibility to music. It's unbelievable. You can absolutely find the most underground thing that you could have never found back when I was younger on YouTube, or somebody has it pirated somewhere. It's like it's everything's out there now. I mean, I like to say we come from the underground, but it's hard to say you're underground anymore when someone can just do a search on a song and it's going to pop up. It's not like I got to write 3 different people to get someone to make a copy of this to send me on cassette just so I can hear it. So having that, you have a lot more competition. So there are tons of talented bands out there. Going to be who puts the most work into it, or unfortunately, who has the most charisma to push themselves or have some kind of influencer push them or something. It's it's a different scene, and I kind of stay in my old dome. I still attack things like I used to. I'm I do some social media, YouTube. I had to get pushed. My wife kept telling me you need to get your stuff out there more. This is the new stuff, and I started to do that, and it worked out pretty well. And that's why I do the Vincent Crowley channel station. So yeah, I'm getting to slowly getting into it, but I'm an old fucking goat that wants to stick to a lot of my old ways. But to answer your question, it's a whole different business attack nowadays, and I really couldn't give any advice because I have a background that I have people contacting me to do stuff because of my background. So it's a lot harder when you're just starting out and you're like brand new and you have to, kind of make yourself known. So it's probably a lot harder nowadays to do something and to actually be remembered because, man, trends come and go so fast nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. Things change so quickly. I find the same thing in the writers market. And I try to get inspired. People ask, "Well, when are you going to write another book?" And I don't have anything to say. I've kind of transitioned from writing books to just doing YouTube videos and my Patreon and things like that because I feel like it's more effective than taking all the time to write a book that people may not even entertain anymore because I'm an old guy too, my first book was published like in 2009, I guess. So, yeah, and I've seen a lot of folks come and go, so I can certainly relate.
That's actually a good point with the books because I have been on the fence because I've been meaning to do a book for a while now, and I was going to do one on the history of Acheron and my whole career. And when I was doing that, I used to have up a Q and A's I put out for a while. And what I was doing, I was taking questions from fans and answering them. And I noticed I'm pretty much saying everything I was going to say in a book. And so I understand uh, putting it on like some kind of format like YouTube instead of a book, because most likely average person's just going to have it in their collection. You know what I mean? It's so I'm working on actually doing that series, which I was going to do for a book on my YouTube channel. So eventually, the whole story of the career will be on there, and I just think it's going to be a lot more interesting. And I'm going to try to have somebody work with me on that because I don't know about you, but when you do a single, like when you're by yourself doing a video, you might give information out, you might say stuff, and you don't think about certain things. When you have somebody that's kind of interested, they'll dig in deeper and you get more stories out of it. So I want to do that and work with somebody. So when I do these like sections of each, year of my career, that they'll get a little bit more in depth and maybe tap into some things I didn't even, think about.
Everything is so disposable nowadays. And people's attention span, as we were talking about before the show, uh, they have a very short attention span. They'll come and listen to something or read something for a couple of minutes, and they're just too much competition for a person's attention.
I do a show on my channel called "What Gets Your Goat," and it's all about having a good time. I have guests on, and we just talk about things that annoy the shit out of us. And it just I wanted to kind of, the one thing about the whole occult and satanic scene that I kind of get irritated at. Some people think you have to be serious and like have this dark atmospheric attitude all the time. You know, Satanists are supposed to indulge and enjoy and have a sense of humor too. And even if it is dark, and I on that show we try to show that I don't have just Satan. I have different types of people, but it's like to show that let's not be a comic book character. People are real. You have real life. You go to the grocery store, you go shopping, you have to pay your bills, you have to do everything everybody else does. It doesn't mean you sit in your basement with a pentagram over your head 24 hours a day. And um I see some of these people out there and they're trying to be so fucking dark, and it fucking cracks me up. It's like you just don't get it. So, on the channel I try to do a mixture of things, and I'm trying to expand that coming next year. I kind of have put my channel on hold for a little bit because of all this band stuff I'm doing right now. But I'll be active again next year in January and get everything back on track, and have some good ideas, and try to make things interesting again.
I do like the approach of your show, and I totally agree. Many people, they look at Satanists as being unhappy, brooding, unloved people, like we're into maladaptive behavior or something like that. And that's just not the case. I think things like that come from stereotypical uh, things that maybe in the past, and it's
Mhm.
maybe an aesthetic. If you're in a band, or you are carrying a persona that's maybe that edgy, moody, always, um, that type of approach. But for the most part, most people are not like that. Folks on the left-hand path, period, are not like that.
Yeah,
We do have lives, we have friends. I love a good laugh. I really do.
absolutely,
Um, and I
absolutely.
love being around people and not always focusing on the left-hand path as well.
I'll be the first to admit I went through those stages in the beginning. I have to always try to be as dark as I could, or live up to that thing. There was part of time, in the band where I thought, it was like indulgence was everything, just being completely crazy and fucking. I mean, I went through all of that shit. And it's funny when you get older, you're like going, no, quit trying to be something you're not. It's like, and it's very, so I understand people going through that kind of feeling, because when you get a lot of people that get into it, they're feeling some kind of fucking problem with their life, and it's like something's not working here. What can I fucking grasp onto that will take me to another level? And the cool thing about the Satanic Bible is it's pretty much telling you be your fucking self. It doesn't fucking matter. you know, is as long as you're not fucking with other people or, you know, harming and doing all that shit, do what the fuck you want, you know? And that again, that's where like Satanism today I have a problem with. There's like groups now that have to champion certain ideas and push them. And again, I don't really label myself as a Satanist anymore. I say I live a satanic life. I don't like labels because there's so many out there when it comes to, you know, being a Satanist. But it, you and I are not the same. You have different interests, some. I'll have different interests. I might like things you don't like, and vice versa. Does that mean we're wrong? No. Now, when you have a group that's pushing an idea and championing it and saying, oh, we support this, you're holding that flag up for that specific thing that maybe someone else in that group's not into. You can't do that. And a lot of people are doing that. And I'm not saying the idea they're doing is necessarily bad. It's just you can't use specific things if you really want to make it satanic. And I've just noticed a lot of people being very politically correct these days, which I utterly despise because why? You don't need to. You can on your own feel free to stand up for whatever you want. Don't put the word Satanism with it just because that's what you believe. You can say that's what you believe, but that doesn't make it satanic because you believe it, if you know what I'm saying. And a lot of these new groups are very PC, you know, social justice warriors and stuff like that. And I just think, let's face it, the world is brutal. And, you know, the satanic element of the 90s was like, you know, this is a predator prey world, you know. If you're going to make yourself prey, that's your problem. You know, you have to fight for having a right to do what you want to do and stand up for yourself. I don't need anybody to fucking wave my fucking flag for fucking my stuff. I'll say it myself, you know.
It goes against the very principles that we stand for on the left-hand path. Now, I'm not saying go out and, you know, try to offend everyone or just be an asshole or something like that. But I think just like you were talking about the Church of Satan, how it starts as a great idea, but then it becomes a movement, a religion. I would even say a cult in some ways, where now it's about conformity. So you lose that whole spirit of rebellion that we all started with and hopefully embrace. I don't want to be part of the group. I want to be separate from the group. That's what I base my life on. Now, if we can come together, like you say, and we have similar interests, great. But as you said, we're not going to agree 100% on everything. And to ask me or me to ask you to conform, it's, I mean, you can get that at a church.
In the 90s, when I was working with the Church of Satan, you know, Anton LaVey had made me a priest, and then later he advanced me to Magister. But back then, that was just like him. Those titles were more like recognizing the work I was doing as it's kind of like, oh, it's good job. It wasn't, hey, I'm a magister and you're a member. Kiss my ass. It wasn't that. And I never wanted that type of shit. And I noticed later on, and it's not just the Church of Satan, there's other groups out there that do that with ranks and stuff like that. And My idea would be, if you're going to say no one comes before myself, I bow before nobody. Oh, but your rank is higher than mine. What the fuck is that? That's not satanic. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And if you're in the military, if you have a job and stuff, yeah, you have ranks for fucking what you do. A lifestyle, no, there shouldn't be any type of fucking ranks and stuff like that. You could have people that kind of organize stuff, but again, I don't get into all that shit because organizations always lead the problem. The more people you have in the room, the more likely something bad's going to happen. That is absolutely true.
absolutely. Because it again, it takes on groupthink. And people, they all start to form this idea of conformance. And you've got to conform. And, I have people contact me a lot that are in groups or have left groups nowadays. Um, and they say it's awful. It's a self-policing cult.
Yeah, and I throughout the years I have been, you know, in touch with tons of occult groups and people that practice it or ran things, and I've met people that in charge of stuff and seen what they did and kind of I always am open minded to see what other people do just to kind of get knowledge. And most of those organizations or groups are gone now. And, there's always some kind of drama in the shit. And uh, it, it just got to the point where it's like, why? If you want to practice the dark arts, you can do it by yourself. Why do you need somebody? If you have people close to you, okay, if you can do stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, you don't need people. And organizations, well, I guess the thing is, when I first started out, I wanted to push the idea of Satanism, the philosophy. I thought that will save the world because you're going to have a world following true order because you have the freedom, but you're not putting up with shit either. I always get people ask me, they go, why are the satanic statements and the satanic sins and all that stuff? And I'm like going, you know what? If LaVey didn't put that kind of stuff out there, you get all kinds of fucking degenerates fucking thinking they can do, all kinds of shit that if remembering the 80s, the satanic panic, which I lived through and fucking saw, you know you were fucking, obviously can't say stuff on YouTube, but you doing abominable stuff, you were doing things so atrocious that people thought you were a piece of shit. And we were trying to get the whole philosophy out. At this point I'm like, you know what, Satanism is for a few. No one will ever get Satanism. That's why Christianity, Islam, and Judaism is like the big boys in the world, because people want that crutch and they want that padding that, oh, I'll be forgiven for all the stuff I've done. In our world, you're not. You you do something to another person, physically, mentally, whatever, that's illegal, you're going to be dealt with. That's just the way it is.
You got to own
Mm-hmm.
it. You don't have that scapegoat to blame. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think people get that sometimes. It's about owning your path, and your path is individual. So it's not going to be the same as anyone else. You forge your own path, and you go on your own journey, and your journey is unique to you. And that
Mm-hmm.
comes back to the fact of conformance and conformity and things like that. That is a red flag. So that should send you on your way.
And society comes up with things. In the 80s we had the religious right that was pushing the whole satanic panic thing. And now we have, the extreme left, where if you don't conform or agree with them, you're a Nazi. It's like, it's the same story. It's just a different label they're giving you. They're trying to make, the villains out of everybody that don't believe in their way. And there's no sanity to that, because, calling people fucking names of that nature, it's fucking ridiculous. And, you know, it just shows you're unintelligent. you know, if call someone a name because they don't agree with something you believe in. Another thing with, this is me living a satanic life. I believe in people to have freedom of speech and expression. I think is one of the most important things we have. And living in the United States, there's always been struggles with that. But fucking compared to a lot of other countries, we haven't fucking pretty made over here. Now, the thing is with that is I think a lot of Satanists also believe in order. Do you want someone to be able to break in your house and, do things to your family, rob you or assault? Absolutely not. You're going to defend yourself. And there we go. The Second Amendment, to defend yourself. We need these freedoms, and that a lot of these things are satanic in nature because we won't put up with that stuff. And it's not like you're bullying anybody. You're just standing up for yourself. And that's what we need to do without being a bunch of whiny little bitches. Like it seems like all I hear is people whining and complaining. It's like, don't complain, do. If you want to have something change, fucking do it. And don't whine about being a victim, because being a victim is not satanic in any way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. And nature gave us differentiation to make value judgments. And, people make them every day. I don't like all food. Doesn't mean that I'm prejudiced or racist against the food. I just don't like it. And when people try to build it to, again, it's about control. That's what it is.
You could see definitely the organizations that submit and like try to say, see, we're pro this, we're good. And I'm like going, remember LeVay's talk about people wearing the good guy badge? They always want to have that. I'm good. I'm okay. We don't give a fuck. I don't care if you think I'm a piece of shit. I care less. I'm going to still believe what I believe. And if you don't like it, tough shit. That's where the whole groups and stuff. And as we, talked before the show, there's so many different types of belief systems with like Satanism or, just all kinds of things. Some believe in an actual devil. Some believe in the spirit. Some believe in a energy, a form. Some believe just in the philosophy. I I personally never resonated to, except for when I was younger, an actual devil, especially when you get knowledgeable and you realize that there are religions that predate Christianity that have had these devilish icons for a long time. Um, I believe in an energy. I believe in something we can tap into. I believe in I like to call it a dark feeling because it's just something that kind of always has resonated with me after a while. Is that spiritual? Could be. I don't believe it to be, an actual, you know, devil or angel or whatever you want to call it. But if people want to symbolize it as that, that's fine. I just don't. Um, but again, that's why you can't lump everybody together, because everyone's going to have their own path to take. And we've always called it the left-hand path. But if you think about it, the real satanic path is anyone that gets you to the destination you need to get to. If it goes back and forth, so be it. You know what I mean? And that's where I think one of the most satanic symbols is like, the yin yang balance, that these are something we all have, if you're all fucking just dark and fucking, quote unquote, I hate the word evil, but that's what people call them. You're not going to go anywhere. And if you think you're going to be perfect goody goody and never do anything, good luck with that. That's never going to happen. Balance is everything. And I think that should be the true symbol of, the satanic philosophy.
I've asked a lot of questions. What have I not asked that you would like to talk about?
My band Acheron has getting back together next year, and we will be doing limited shows, and they will be called the God Can't Save You shows. And we will be recording a 2-song vinyl that will be hopefully out next year. We'll be recording hopefully the beginning of next year. But we plan on playing some festivals. We'll be playing in Finland. We'll be playing in Spain, Germany, Colombia, Brazil, New York, Chicago. I know there's more. I'd have to look on the list, but we're definitely, we're not doing full blown tours, but we're doing a lot of weekend shows, playing festivals, and it's pretty good stuff. And then my band Vincent Crowley will also be doing shows next year. Actually, I'll be doing double duties in Brazil. I'll be both bands will be playing a festival there, and we'll also be playing. We'll be listing that. If you go to our Facebook, Vincent Crowley Band, that will tell you some tour dates.
Do you mind if people contact you?
Absolutely not. You can contact me at crowleymusic@hotmail.com, or come add yourself, subscribe to my channel, the Vincent Crowley channel, and leave some comments on the music and the shows. And I just posted in the comment sections, if people have any questions or ideas for upcoming shows, let me know. I'll try to touch base on them.
Wonderful. And I encourage people to go over and check it out. I really enjoy it. And we'll keep up with you, maybe have you back on next year sometime, and we can talk about your shows and things like that. I really enjoyed this.
Excellent. Well, like I guess I said, I appreciate all the support. It's places like this I give way more credit to than the mainstream magazines and the shit like that, because the right people get to it. It just feels more natural. So hails to you for doing this channel.
Glad to do it. Thank you again, Vincent, for being here. And for those of you that have been watching, thank you for being here. And I encourage you, reach out to Vincent, stay up with his bands as they go out and perform. Check out their music. Check out his YouTube channel. I think you will certainly get a satanic blessing. Until next time, this has been Alistair Nocht. Ave Satanas.